Everybody should see the curly Q card symbols here across front. This is the first slide set. We're going to review just a little bit. I want to go on to the next section, and I think it behooves everybody to have a quick review, particularly on the forcing defense. You'll remember that we talked last week about these first three lines of defense: forcing the declarer to ruff, known as the forcing defense, active and passive defense. Most of the time when you're defending, you will adopt a passive stance, just simply because that's the way most hands are. There's not an extremely long suit or extreme shortness in the dummy on the majority of hands. Most of the time, you'll find a relatively balanced or semi-balanced dummy, and so you'll just be passive. Other times, you may see a long suit in the dummy that threatens to be a parking place for all of Declarer's losers, and that means that you have to be very active, going after your tricks as soon as possible before they go away. And the first one I want to remind you about here is the forcing defense. When the conditions are right for the forcing defense, that line of defense takes precedence over all others because it works so effectively. If you can force the declarer to trump multiple times, particularly if you hold 4 trumps in your own hand, it is really, really exciting when you think about forcing the declarer to lose control of the hand so that you take over the control of the hand. That is a recipe for disaster for any declarer. And you do that by getting control of the trump suit. When the conditions are right, this is the line of defense you always want to pursue. How can you recognize that? Well, maybe the declarer has a 2-suited hand. That means he's going to be short somewhere and may want to trump. When he's playing in a 4-3 fit, he has 4 trumps in his hand and 3 on the board. It doesn't take much. I mean, you could easily be holding 4 trumps and your partner too, and you have as many trumps as he does. Make him ruff once, and now all of a sudden you have more than he does. My favorite time, or the time that happens when I'm the best at using the forcing defense, is when I have 4 trumps or I think my partner does. In that instance, I don't lead shortness. I don't want to ruff myself. I want to make the declarer ruff. So I lead my longest suit. If it happens that my partner is short in it, well, maybe my partner can get a ruff with the one little trump he has. But this is something that I've learned to watch for because I've had so much success with it. When you have 4 trumps or you believe your partner does, lead your long suit. Lead your long suit. Even if you have to lead from a broken tennis, this can be your most effective choice. It's risky, definitely, but the rewards are worth it. Here's an example. The opponents are in 4 spades. This 3 no trump response here says, partner, I'm a flat hand over here, and I'm offering you the choice of games. I don't have a ruffing value for you. So if you look no trumpy, maybe we should play no trump instead. East rebids his other major, though. He says, no, I'm not flat. And West takes his choice here. Now, South's lead is the queen. Notice this is his long suit. He has 4 trumps. He doesn't lead the heart. Declarer's already said he has strength in hearts. He leads his long suit. Note what this does. It traps the king and the dummy here on this hand. This isn't always true, of course. And you see here that this dummy hand is very flat. There are 3 trumps, but there's no ruffing value in it. Now, second trick, Jack of clubs is led. Finally, declarer decides to play the king. Your partner plays the ace, and the declarer trumps. Then the declarer leads the 10 of diamonds. If I'm sitting here in this seat as a defender, I'm hopping up with that ace and I am putting another club on the table. I think the declarer is 5-4 in spades and hearts. He's already ruffed once. If I can make him ruff again, I think that I'm feel like I'm sitting in the bed of roses here. When he tries to cash his heart winners, I can make sure that he doesn't get very many of them. And every time I get the lead, I'm going to lead clubs. This declarer doesn't have a chance here. Doesn't have a chance. Now, we talked about when to defend actively and when to defend passively. You need to take an active position when you have a suspicion from the bidding that there is a long-running suit in the dummy or there is a long second suit in the declarer's hand. You know, maybe somebody bid and rebid a suit, indicating that he has lengths. If you can look at your hand and see that the side suits are breaking evenly, then that means that the declarer may be able to set up extra tricks there. Maybe the opponents are in a game contract, but they tried for slam and couldn't quite get there. And anytime you think your tricks are going to go away, you defend actively. What does it mean to defend actively? Well, normally we don't lead an ace that's not supported by the king, but when you're defending actively, you might put an unsupported ace on the table. You might underlead a broken tennis, say like the king, jack, 10 of diamonds, saying, hopefully my partner can help me set this suit up. If he has the ace, great. If he has the queen, that helps. So you take risks that you wouldn't ordinarily take when you're defending, when you have an idea that your tricks are going to go away. If they're going to go away, then you've got to get them or you won't get them. So even if you've taken this risky position and led an unsupported ace, which most of the time is a big no-no, or you've underled this broken tennis right into declarer's hand and he turns out to have the ace queen, it really doesn't matter, because if you don't get your tricks in a hurry, you're not going to get them at all. So you lose nothing by defending actively when, in your experience or from what you think from the bidding, it seems like the declarer has a long suit or a place to park losers. Maybe the dummy has indicated shortness in a suit. If that's the case, then you might want to consider leading a trump. That's normally considered a passive lead, but sometimes it can be active. If you can tell that the dummy is going to be short in a suit because maybe he bid 2 suits and raised a third, that means that that 4th suit probably is very short in his hand. So anytime your tricks can go away, get after the ones that you think you have. When you put that ace on the table, look for an attitude signal from your partner. If you and your partner are not using signals, consider using attitude signals, because it can really, really help your defense. If you use attitude signals when you play the ace, partner's going to assume you have the king, and he may encourage with a doubleton or with the queen. But look for an attitude signal from him. If he plays a low card, unless you're playing upside down attitude and count, then that means make a switch. Make a switch. But even if you have given up a trick to declarer's king, when there's a chance that that ace can go away, you need to take it right away. Any tricks that you may have can go away if you don't take them early. I know you've all seen examples of this. You're sitting there holding a nice ace in a side suit and you think, oh boy, I'm going to get a trick here. Maybe my partner has an outside king or something. And after the hand is over, you discover that declarer had a bunch of losers in that suit. Your partner had the king and queen in the suit. and declarer disposed of his losers because he had a long suit, either in his hand or in the dummy, that took care of the losers in that suit. This is why it becomes so important. All of a sudden, declarers made several over tricks because you were not able to get in and get your tricks in a hurry. When you have to defend actively, then be active, be aggressive. These are called aggressive leads. Under leading a king, for instance, is a very aggressive lead. Under leading a king jack tennis is a very aggressive lead. But when you have to do it, or because you think your tricks are going to go away, then you lose nothing if it doesn't work out. Because if your tricks were going away anyway, then you were never going to get them. But having said that, I want to emphasize that most of the time you will be defending passively. What does it mean to defend passively? It means don't break new suits for the declarer. Make him do his own work. Unless you have a sequence and a side suit, don't lead it. These are typical passive leads. A trump lead is often a passive lead. If your partner has a trump honor and you end up finessing it, then the declarer could have gone to the dummy and finessed your partner anyway. It's when you underlead an honor in your own hand that is aggressive. Every time I forget that and I underlead a king, I see the queen on the board. Usually when the declarer puts the queen up, I know what the situation is. The other defender and the declarer, who has more points? Well, the declarer does. That's why he bought the contract. So here's the queen on the board. He has the ace in his hand. If he has more than two cards in either, well, if he has only two cards in one of the hands, he now has no losers. So underleading a king is very, very aggressive. That doesn't mean it's always wrong. It's just aggressive. Now, how do I know when I should defend passively? When you have no evidence from the bidding that the dummy has a long suit or any shortness. In other words, it's just a flat dummy. Some people call it a dead dummy because it doesn't have a ruffing value or it doesn't have a long suit. You can get an indication of that from the bidding if you can remember what it was. And then if you can't, before you lead to the first trick, say, may I have a review of the bidding? If you have forgotten who bid what and exactly what was bid and how often. Now, another time when you want to defend passively is maybe declarer opened two clubs and the dummy is very weak. You know that either because he used the second negative or he just bid the game and said, this is it. When you have a very strong hand, or even one that's similar to that one that Rick was talking about, your partner's open two, no trump, and you're sitting there with 4 points. Well, if it's an ace, then there's a sure entry. But if it's 4 jacks, it's not great at all. Not great at all. You may or may not have an entry for your partner. It all depends on what's in his hand, and you don't know that yet. All you know is he's got a balance 20 or 21. So when you have hands that feature one that's very strong and the other one that's very weak, play passively. The declarer wants to figure out how to get to the dummy to take finesses. It is very hard to play a no trump contract out of your own hand. Very difficult. You just are either forced to lead away from your honors or you have to put non-winning honors on the table to try to develop a trick. And it's hard. I've been caught in that situation many times. And I always appreciate a little bit of help from the defenders. And doggone it, a lot of the time they won't give it to me. So the secret to defending in that situation is to play passively. Don't break new suits. Just return the suit that the declarer led. When you can tell from your hand that there are bad splits in the suits, don't help the declarer out. Let him figure that out all by himself. And then when he finds out, he has to figure out what to do about it. You can usually tell from the bidding when the hands are misfitting. I have a partner who used to say, if no fit, quit. Well, when you have a misfit hand, even though you think there's enough for game, you are well advised to pull in your horns in the bidding when your hands are misfitting. So when the hands are misfitting, defend passively. Just sit back and let the tricks come to you. When you're leading against no trump and you don't have an attractive suit to lead, say you've got one 4-card suit that's headed by a lone honor. Doesn't matter what the honor is, really. But generally, when you have one honor and 3 small spots and it's your longest suit, you're never getting more than one trick from that suit anyway. So often it pays in that situation either to try to find your partner's suit or just lead passively from 3 small and hope you don't finesse your partner. But remember, if you finesse your partner on opening lead, that is something that the declarer can always do. He can always do that himself. One time or 2 times really, when you really want to be certain to defend passively is when the opponents are playing a no trump slam or any grand slam. Never underlead a king against a no trump slam. The reason for that is usually the declarer has 11 tricks and he has to find a 12th. If you give him a free finesse on the opening lead, you have just presented him with his contract. When you are defending against 6 no trump or any grand slam, make the safest lead you think is available from your hand. And if you could tell that the opponents have bid tentatively, they're feeling their way along, or maybe they overbid. Maybe somebody fell in love with his hand and he overbid. Play passively. Make them do the work. Same thing. If you have some important cards in their suit, or even in a side suit that they bid, defend passively. Now, the most common situation when you want to defend passively is when you can tell that the dummy doesn't have a long suit and doesn't present a threat in terms of being able to serve as a source for the declarer to dump his losing cards in other suits. You know, when you're playing in a suit contract, you can trump and dump losers, right? In no trump, all you can do is dump them on a long suit. But when you can tell from the bidding, maybe the dummy responded 1 no trump to the opening bid. In other words, he doesn't have a suit of any length that he can bid. He doesn't have something like a splinter bid. If you and if the 2 of them use splinter bids that indicate shortness, you can tell when it's appropriate to play passively. And as soon as the dummy hits the table, you know immediately. If it's a dead dummy, maybe it's 4-4-3-2 or a 4-3-3-3, no long suit, just the number of points that were advertised, the declarer is going to have to work hard to make his bid unless he has a really above average hand himself. So just try making the most innocuous leads possible. And as I said earlier, be very careful when you're leading against no trump and you have a ragged 4-card suit that has only a single honor at the top. That suit will not often present opportunities for multiple tricks. Your partner will have to have some significant help for you in that suit for you to get more than one trick from it. So I kind of learned through bitter experience that leading from that ragged 4-card suit often does not pay off. Now, we went through a couple of examples on when to lead actively and passively. If you're leading a diamond here, underleading this particular combination is very risky. But if you think that the declarer is fixing to rip off enough tricks to make his contract, then you've got to get your tricks and get them now before he does, particularly if this is a no trump contract. Remember, a no trump contract is a race to see who can get their tricks set up and cashed first. Well, if you think active defense is called for, then you would lead the 2 of diamonds here. But if you think that passive defense is called for, and most of the time passive defense is the technique you should use, then you would lead anything but a diamond here. Underleading a broken sequence like this is a very, very aggressive lead, and you should do it only when the bidding tells you that this is appropriate. Now, here's an example from the bidding. 1 heart, 1 spade, 2 hearts, 4 spades. Don't you love it when the opponents fight it out? Well, this is an indication to me that the dummy is going to put down 6 good hearts. I know before I even see the dummy that there are 6 of them there, and they're in a game contract. And this is a situation that calls for the lead of an unsupported ace. It calls for underleading a king, or many of the other aggressive leads that we've talked about. But one like this, 1 heart, 2 hearts, 3 hearts, 4 hearts, we've seen auctions like that, right? Even on the opening lead, you should be very passive. Look at these examples again. Here, the dummy is going to have a 6-card heart suit. Here, they've got 8 hearts between them, and they've limped into their game contract. This makes me think that I should be very, very passive. Now, you can also create trump tricks. If you can force the declarer, you can defend actively, you can defend passively. The 4th technique is through creating trump tricks, and that's the main subject I want to cover later on, particularly trump promotion and uppercuts. These are very, very effective. Now, they're most effective when you have no natural trump tricks. When you have no natural trump tricks, if you can create a trump trick, that's nothing but good. You can try that either through trump promotion. You can accomplish that by forcing the declarer to ruff high. You can also use a form of that technique called an uppercut. An uppercut is just incredibly effective, and it's really fun to pull off. The defense accomplishes an uppercut by leading usually the 4th round in a suit, and the defender who is void roughs as high as he possibly can, except with the ace. Ruffing with the ace helps the declarer. But say he has a jack or a 10, and he roughs with a high card rather than his low one. If that forces the declarer to use a high trump honor, it can establish a minor honor for a trump trick in the other defender's hand. This is a very, very effective technique and is used when you just can't see any other way to get a trick. Now, the last technique that defenders can use is to cut down on the declarer's ruffing power. How do you do that? Well, you lead trumps. There used to be an old saying around, when in doubt, lead trumps, but that is totally the opposite of the approach you should take, because you can tell when it's time to lead a trump. The strongest indicator is when the declarer is playing in his 2nd suit. Unless he's extraordinarily lucky, his 1st suit is not all winners. It will seldom happen that he will have all winners in that 1st suit. So what's he going to do with those losers in the 1st suit? And remember, the dummy doesn't have support. If he did, they'd be playing in that 1st suit. So he's short in that 1st suit. So what does that mean that the declarer is going to try to do? He's going to try to ruff some losers in the dummy. So when the declarer is playing in his 2nd suit, say he opens a spade, his partner bids 2 hearts and they end up in hearts. Or maybe he opens a spade Let's say he bids 2 hearts and his partner raises to 3 hearts and the auction dies there. He started with a spade, he rebid hearts, and his partner raised hearts. He doesn't have 5 winners in spades there. And the one thing you know is that the dummy is going to be short in spades. He doesn't have 3. He could have 2, but that still would help the declarer rough out any losers he may have. So when he's playing in his second suit, lead a trump. When the person who's going to be dummy just takes a simple preference to 2 suits that the declarer has bid, that doesn't indicate a fit. That's just a weak hand, and I'm taking a preference back to your first bid suit, partner. That's an indication that maybe they're playing in a 5-2 fit. Leading a trump is a very good approach. This is because with only 2 trumps on the dummy, a smart declarer will try to get an extra trick out of at least one of them. If the hand is a misfit, leading a trump is often very effective because the hands don't fit well together. That means that there's shortness in side suits in both of those hands. If your side has a trump stack, help the declarer pull his trumps so that then your good cards cannot get roughed. When the dummy denied no trump, lead a trump. He's got a flaw somewhere. Shortness, worthless suit, whatever it is. If you have some controls in the other suits and you don't want to underlead an honor, if you don't have a trump honor, put a trump on the table. And whenever the opponents are sacrificing, they're sacrificing because they have lots of cards in that trump suit generally, and they hope to make tricks by roughing cards individually, making use of their trumps in the individual hands. Well, a sacrifice by the opponents should scream, lead a trump at you. The only time that you might not do that is if you have reason to believe that a side suit ace is going away. You might put that on the table first. But generally, when the opponents are sacrificing, you want to put a trump on the table. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these things. I'm going to go over to the other set of slides because otherwise I'm going to talk too long here to get through most of it. Now then, we are back on to more talk about uppercuts, trump promotions, and forcing the declarer to rough. These are the subjects we're going to cover in this half. Now, we talked about last week ways that you can develop trump tricks on defense. If you're short in an unbid suit and you don't have a natural trump trick, then leading that short suit is often a good idea. When you have length in the opponent's side suit, maybe they have a double fit. They've each shown 4 cards at least in that side suit. If you have 4 or 5 of them, guess what? Your partner doesn't have very many of them. Maybe you can help him get some roughs in that suit. If you have a weak hand and you don't see any other way to take tricks than by creating trump tricks, then go for it. You can use trump promotion, you can use uppercuts, and you can either lead trumps to cut down on the declarer's ability to rough, or you can rough his tricks yourself. So, now then, rather than roughing tricks yourself, creating trump tricks where one did not exist previously is extremely effective. You have 2 ways of doing that, either through a trump promotion or a specialized trump promotion called an uppercut. Let's take a look at these. I've got a couple of hands here. Now then, the contract is 4 hearts in the south, and the opening lead is this dummy. Notice that I want to lead spades here. Maybe partner bid a spade here at some point in the auction. Or maybe declarer bid 2 diamonds in response to a 1 no trump forcing or something. He didn't on this hand, but I'm going to lead my doubleton here. This queen and jack of trumps doesn't look like it's going to be good for anything, does it? It looks like it's going to fall on the ace and king, and declarer is going to get lucky today. I'm looking at a hand that contains 6 points. They're in a game contract, so my partner should have about 8 points, something like that. Either that or somebody overbid. So if I lead the 6 of spades, leading a diamond isn't horrible, but if I'm faced with the choice between leading a major and a minor, and especially if the major was unbid, I'm going to pick the major every time. That's just my rule. I haven't read it anywhere. I don't know of an expert that necessarily says that. It's just something I usually do, whether it's right or wrong. So I would lead the 6 of spades here. And bonus, even if the declarer plays low here, your partner's going to take the king. And he's going to look around. He has to stop and think for a minute. Where are we going to get 4 tricks? Well, I can see 2 spade tricks, and I can see that I'm going to get a club trick. But declarer must have the heart honors. I mean, notice this dummy only has 9 high card points in it, but declarer bid the game anyway. So I see 3 tricks. My partner has 6 points. Could he have a trump honor? He might. Could he have a diamond? He might. But notice there's a doubleton in the dummy here, and I can't see any way to get a 4th trick. I'm going to take my top 2 spades, especially after declarer plays the 10 or the jack. I'm going to take my top 2 honors, and I'm paying attention. I see that my partner plays the 5 on the 2nd trick. Now, I had 5 of them. The dummy had 4. What do I know about this hand and the spade suit? I know that my partner has 2 spades, so even if the declarer played the jack the first time, false carding, believe your partner. Believe your partner. You can see the 2, 3, and 4 on the dummy, and when partner leads the 6, you have to hope that he holds. And you see the 9, 8, 7, you have to hope that he holds the 5 also, and that it's doubleton. And when both the declarer and your partner follow the 2 tricks, watch what happens when East leads a 3rd spade. Doesn't make any difference which one he leads in this case, because he's always getting that king of clubs. He leads a spade, and now here we have the declarer. He has to sit here and say, okay, I know for a fact that the opening leader had only a doubleton spade. It's possible that East has the trump honors. If he has the trump honors, well, then maybe West has the king of clubs, and I'm going to be able to make my contract anyway. But on this layout, it makes no difference what he does. It's heads he loses, tails he loses. If he roughs with the 10, the opening leader immediately over-roughs. If he roughs with the ace or the king, that promotes the queen into the setting trick. The key was that Mr. East could see 3 defensive tricks and did not know where he was going to be able to get a 4th one. Is this always going to work? Of course not. Give your partner the 10 and the 4 over here, and all the declarer has to do is rough with the ace, king, queen, or jack, and he's got the tricks. It doesn't always work, but it's worth trying because you haven't lost anything if it didn't work. If this particular lead doesn't work, then, well, he was always making his bid and there was nothing you could do about it. The thing is that you gave yourself a chance by leading a third round of spades. Note you would never, ever lead a club. Leading a diamond, maybe there's weakness in diamonds in the dummy. There's a possibility. But far more effective than hoping that your partner has the ace of diamonds is to try to create a trick through trump promotion. Trump promotion is very, very effective. And this is what you did here. When you force the declarer to ruff, no matter what he does, he loses. This defense puts him down one. Anything else, and he makes the bid. Now, there's another way that trumps can be promoted, and that can happen when one of the defenders has the opportunity to over-ruff the declarer or the dummy and shuns the opportunity. This is hard. When you're sitting there looking at a sure trump trick, it can be really difficult not to just over-ruff and say, take that. I'm going to take that trick. Take that. If we look at this from South's point of view, he's the declarer in 4 spades. Once again, this is a passive lead, the top of a doubleton. He does not underlead his king of trumps here, not ever. Now, they're in 4 spades, and he has 4 trumps. He knows his partner has either one or none, depending on how many of them South has. He leads the 9 of hearts. Looks innocuous enough, doesn't it? But the fact that he has only 3 points in his hand means that his partner has to have some points somewhere. He has 10 or 11, I would think. So he puts the 9 on the table. He's got 4 trumps, so he can certainly afford the possibility of getting 2 trump tricks from this holding. Now then, South thinks, okay, I have a potential spade loser and 2 heart losers. I can rough out this 3rd diamond on the board before I draw all the trumps, and dummies clubs will take care of my losers. So I think I've got this contract made in the shade. Watch what happens. If West leads a heart, his partner will take the king, and then the ace, and then he should lead a 3rd round. He knows that both his partner and the declarer are out of hearts at this point. After all, there were 5 of them on the board. So, if he leads a low heart, let's think about this here. South would likely ruff with the 10. I think most of you would ruff with the king, wouldn't you? Over ruff. And then now, no matter what you lead, declarer has his contract, because once you have over ruffed, he can pull your 3 remaining small trumps, cash out, and say, 4 spades, bid made. Watch what happens, though, if West doesn't over ruff. Let's say he throws a diamond or a club. Now South is in his hand. He can lead over to a club and take a finesse, and you can take your trick. He's already ruffed with the 10, and he played the jack to force out your king. He has the ace and queen left. You have the 2 and the 3, and then your 9 stands up to take a 2nd trump trick, all because you didn't over ruff. When should I look for this kind of situation? When you have a high honor and a high spot card. You typically need the 9 or the 10. And if you can be strong and resist the urge to over ruff, when South ruffs with the 10, you just sit there and throw something off. He's going to think, oh, hey, I think maybe my finesse is going to work. He didn't over ruff my 10. So he goes to the board with a club, leads a spade, puts in the jack. You take your king. Just lead a club or a diamond back. Declarer's thinking, okay, there were 5 out. I should be able to drop the rest of these. And when he plays the ace, West plays the 2. Here comes a spade here off the board. And your partner plays off. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now all of a sudden, West has 2 trump tricks to go with the ace and king of hearts. Down 1. This is a trump promotion that came about because West did not overruff that 10. This is hard to do. I know how hard it is. Your inclination, your strong inclination, is to overruff with that king. Now, if you had king 4-3-2, by all means, if you want to do that. But remember, you've got 4 trumps to the declarer's 5, so he's going to have to use most of his to pull yours. But when you have the high trump honor, or even a so-so trump honor like a queen, and then a high spot card, if you can resist the temptation to overruff in situations like this, you will find yourself getting 2 trump tricks and not just 1. Now, what else should I think about when I'm trying to decide whether I should ruff or overruff? Well, here's a big one. Don't ruff air. What do I mean when I say don't ruff air? Well, when the declarer leads a small card that's a loser anyway, resist the temptation to do that. Here's another instance when it is really hard to do. You've got a trump. In this case, spades are trump. Declarer leads one of these little diamonds off the board. If you'll be patient and discard one of these little hearts, maybe your partner has a diamond winner. You don't want to ruff one of your partner's winners, do you? But notice what you should be thinking about. See the 9, 7, and 5 here on the board in the trump suit? You have the 10, the 8, and the 2. If the declarer tries to ruff a heart, you'll have to follow once if you have discarded a heart. He'll probably ruff with the 5 the first time, come back to his hand, and lead another heart to ruff. If he ruffs with the 7, you can overruff him. If he ruffs with the 9, you can overruff him. If you will be patient and hold on to these trumps, when you have this kind of situation, you're in a position to overruff the dummy twice. Now, obviously, you're not always going to have the right cards to be able to do that. And if it happens that you can't overruff the dummy, then by all means, go ahead and ruff air. Ruff one of these little diamonds. Unless
Susan,
yes. Mm-hmm.
Deborah has a question.
Yes, Deborah. Mm-hmm.
It's on the previous page.
Mm-hmm.
What if the declarer didn't lead the 10, but they led the 4? I mean, trumped with the 4 instead of the 10. Would you go ahead and
with the 9? You bet I would. But a good declarer knows that West is out of trumps, and he doesn't want to take the risk of being overruffed. Most everybody I know would ruff with the 10 here. But if for some reason he's not paying attention, or he thinks that the high-low here from West means he has 4 hearts, and and East has only 2 of them, then he might ruff with the 4. And if he ruffs with the 4, then ruff with the 9, and subsequently, you're getting a trick with this king.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, absolutely right. Good point. I hadn't even considered that. Most declarers will ruff with a high trump honor, though.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. So if you have the chance, if you are in a position that you can overruff the dummy in a side suit, then try to be strong and discard. If that happens, you can end up getting 2 trump tricks and denying the trump tricks to the declarer. He thinks he's going to be able to ruff several hearts here. And look at this, you're holding two hearts. I mean, it looks like he could lead hearts twice and trump them and get tricks with his 5 and with his 7. But if instead of ruffing the diamond when he leads it, if you discard a heart, you're in position to get 2 over ruffs, not just 1. Sometimes when I look at results, I think, how in the world did those defenders beat that contract 2 tricks? I don't see a way to defeat it more than 1 trick. Well, often it's something like that. You know, I failed to consider something like that, but a better defender said, hey, I need to discard here, because if the declarer tries to ruff with one of those cards in the dummy, I can over ruff twice, not just once. Now, let's talk about uppercuts for a minute. We just have a few minutes left. So, the secret to an uppercut is counting on your partner to ruff with the highest card he has. Here we have an auction: 1 spade, south bids 1 no trump forcing, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts. This says, partner, I have a 6 to 9 point hand with 6 pieces in it. Please fold them up. We need to play here. Now, notice on the opening lead, West should not lead that singleton diamond because he has a natural trump trick. So he leads the 3 of clubs. In general, you don't do anything but help the declarer if you ruff and you had a natural trump trick. All of a sudden, you've taken his worries away in the trump suit. So the general rule is, when you have a natural trump trick, which you do here in hearts, don't lead a singleton. Lead from length. So here comes the 3 of clubs. In this case, your partner has a nice hand, which is to be expected. I mean, we know that the declarer's hand is weak and that it probably has 6 hearts in it. So what happens on this hand? Well, East will win the king and cash the ace. Right? What's he going to do after that? What's he going to do after that? He should look at the board over here and say, I wonder. This is the hand that opened, and he opened a spade, and he has only the queen on the top. I wonder if my partner could possibly have the king of spades. I'm only getting 2 tricks from clubs. It doesn't matter what my partner has in clubs. I'm only getting 2 tricks. So he should put the ace of spades on the table. His partner should signal vigorously with the 8. When he does that, his partner will take the king of spades. And now we have to stop and think about it. So far, we have 4 tricks. We need 2 more. I'm not getting a club. I don't have a diamond. And from the look of those diamonds in the dummy, I don't think we're getting any diamond tricks unless my partner has the queen. And if he does, he's going to get it no matter what happens, because the fact that I have a singleton means that the declarer has more than 1. So where can we get 2 more tricks? My partner played the ace and then the 4 of spades. I had 4 spades. The dummy had 5. My partner had 2. That means the declarer has 2. I wonder if my partner could possibly have a high enough spot card. I'm thinking, I see the ace on the table. I'm thinking that declarer has to have the king of trumps. He has to. I wonder if my partner could have the 10 or the 9 that could force declarer to ruff high. If he thinks long enough about it, he should lead a spade back. And if partner's paying attention, he will ruff with the 10, never with the 3. When your partner is doing this for you, remember to ruff high. That is the key element here. If he ruffs with the 10, well, guess what? My spades and clubs are gone. My diamonds are not losers. So I either have to ruff with the king if I want the trick, or I have to discard a little diamond. It makes no difference, because if I don't ruff, if I discard, the defenders now have 5 tricks. And notice, West still has his natural trump trick. It doesn't make any difference how Declarer sachets around. West is getting a trump trick. But if he says, oh, well, maybe I can finesse here to pick up a trump honor and over ruffs with the king. Now look, we have trump tricks with the queen and the jack. We have 2 trump tricks. This is the uppercut. East delivers the uppercut punch with the 10, forcing the declarer to ruff high, promoting the queen and the jack into winners. This contract is down 1 because, number 1, the defenders obeyed some rules here, didn't lead a singleton with a natural trump trick, led 4th from the longest and strongest. Partner took his king and ace and said, nah, we're not getting any more of those. Switched to his short suit over here, hoping his partner had something in it. Is this always going to work? Of course, it's not always going to work, but this is a fairly common auction that happens. I mean, after all, this north hand has 14 points and he opened. So opposite a hand that's weak that has a 6-card suit in it. But they end up setting this contract by use of the uppercut. This is a type of trump promotion, and it is very, very effective. Now, if you're preparing to give a ruff and a slough like that at some point, be sure you cash any of your side suit winners, because the declarer may elect just to discard if you don't. So be sure you cash a side suit winner if you have one when you're getting ready to give the declarer that kind of play. Now, same thing here. This is another example of the uppercut. East has to be sure to ruff with the jack, which promotes the queen over here in his partner's hand. This is not a natural trump trick. Here we have West will lead out the ace and king of hearts, and his partner will give him a high-low 6-5. He's got to pay attention. He's kind of chagrined when he sees 4 of them in the dummy, but then when his partner plays high-low, he says, hey, ace, king. I'm going to lead another one. Let my partner ruff it. It could be that partner has a high enough card that I can get a trick with my queen. I don't see any other sources of tricks here. I don't have diamonds or clubs at all, and I don't have a winner in spades, but maybe I could. So he leads another heart, and lo and behold, his partner doesn't have a high trump honor, but he has a high enough one that it forces the king, promoting the queen. Partner will get the king of clubs for a 1-trick set. This is the way uppercuts work. When you can't see another way to get a defensive trick, go for a trump promotion or for an uppercut. It won't always work, but man, when it does, it's extremely satisfying. So give it a whirl. And thanks for coming this morning, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Hi, this is Susan. Thanks for stopping by the Oklahoma Collective's YouTube channel. Basically, this channel shows recordings of our free 1-hour bridge lessons for advancing players that we offer every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you would like to join us, send your contact information to the email address shown on the screen, and we'll be happy to send you the link. If you would like to follow our channel and be notified when a new recording is uploaded, just click the Oklahoma Collective button below. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.